How to budget on a low income. Budgeting on a low income is not about restriction. It is about control. And most people misunderstand this from the very beginning. They believe budgeting only works when you earn more money, when life is easier, or when expenses are smaller. But the truth is, budgeting matters most when money is tight. Because when resources are limited, every decision carries more weight. Every choice has consequences. And every habit either protects you or exposes you. Living on a low income can feel overwhelming. Bills arrive before the money does. Emergencies feel like disasters. And the pressure to survive can make long-term planning feel impossible. But budgeting is not about pretending money stress doesn't exist. It is about creating clarity in the middle of pressure. It is about giving direction to money that would otherwise disappear without explanation. The first thing to understand is that budgeting is not about numbers. It is about behavior. Two people can earn the same low income, yet one steadily improves while the other stays trapped. The difference is not luck. It is awareness. Awareness of where money goes. Awareness of what matters. Awareness of trade-offs. When income is low, the margin for error is small. That is why guessing is dangerous. You cannot afford to assume you know where your money goes. You must see it. Every expense, no matter how small, must be acknowledged. Not judged. Not criticized. Just acknowledged. Because money that is invisible cannot be controlled. Many people avoid tracking their spending because they are afraid of what they will find. But clarity is never the enemy. Confusion is. Once you see where your money actually goes, you gain power. Power to adjust. Power to decide. Power to interrupt patterns that keep you stuck. Budgeting on a low income begins with survival priorities. Not goals. Not dreams. Not inspiration. Survival. Housing. Transportation. Utilities. These are the foundation. Everything else is secondary. If these areas are unstable, no budgeting system will work. So the first step is ensuring that your basic needs are protected as consistently as possible. After survival comes stability. Stability means predictability. It means knowing what bills exist, when they are due, and how much they cost. Many people live in constant anxiety simply because they do not know what is coming next. A written budget removes that uncertainty. It turns fear into facts. One of the biggest mistakes people make on a low income is trying to budget like someone with a high income. They copy complex systems, aggressive investing strategies, or unrealistic savings goals. That approach leads to frustration. Your budget must match your reality, not your ambition. Ambition comes later. When income is low, flexibility matters more than perfection. Some months will go according to plan. Others will not. Budgeting is not about punishment when things go wrong. It is about adjustment. The goal is not to be flawless. The goal is to stay conscious. Another critical principle is paying yourself first, even when income is small. This does not mean large savings. It means symbolic consistency. Saving a small amount regularly builds identity. It reinforces the belief that your future matters, even when the present is difficult. Small savings are not meaningless. They are training. Many people say they cannot save because they earn too little. But saving is not only about the amount. It is about the habit. When income increases later, habits remain. If you never practice saving now, more money will not fix that. Debt is often the heaviest burden for low-income earners. Interest consumes money before it can be used for progress. Budgeting requires honesty about debt. Not denial. Not shame. Just strategy. Minimum payments protect credit. Extra payments, even small ones, reduce stress. The key is direction. Another overlooked element is emotional spending. When life feels hard, spending can feel like relief. A small treat, a temporary escape, but emotional spending compounds financial stress. Budgeting on a low income requires emotional awareness. You must learn to pause between feeling and action. That pause is powerful. It creates space to ask a simple question. Does this expense help me survive, stabilize, or progress? If not, it may need to wait. Budgeting also requires saying no. No to pressure. No to comparison. No to expectations that do not match your situation. Many people struggle financially not because they lack discipline, but because they feel obligated to meet standards they cannot afford. Financial growth requires boundaries. Another important strategy is designing your budget around cycles, not months. Income may be irregular. Expenses may fluctuate. A weekly or bi-weekly approach often works better for low-income earners. It aligns decisions with reality instead of forcing artificial structure. You must also plan for irregular expenses. School fees, repairs, medical costs. These are not surprises. They are predictable, even if they are not monthly. A budget that ignores them will always fail. Small monthly allocations prevent large emergencies later. One of the most empowering parts of budgeting is reclaiming choice. When money is unplanned, life feels reactive. When money is planned, even small amounts become intentional. Intentional money builds confidence. Confidence builds momentum. It is also important to recognize that budgeting on a low income is temporary, not permanent. The purpose is not to stay constrained. It is to create stability so growth becomes possible. Budgeting is the bridge between survival and opportunity. As stability improves, new priorities can be added. Skill development, side income, education. These are investments, not luxuries. Even small amounts directed toward growth can change the trajectory of your life. Many people believe budgeting limits freedom. In reality, it creates it. Freedom is not spending without thinking. Freedom is knowing your bills are covered, your future is protected, and your choices are intentional. Budgeting on a low income also builds discipline, which becomes a lifelong asset. When income increases, discipline multiplies results. Without discipline, higher income simply creates higher expenses. You must also track progress, not perfection. Celebrate small wins. A bill paid early. A debt reduced. A week without unnecessary spending. Progress reinforces behavior. Most importantly, budgeting restores dignity. It shifts the narrative from helplessness to leadership. You are no longer reacting to money. You are directing it. Low income does not mean low potential. It means the margin is thin and wisdom matters more. With clarity, structure, patience, and consistency, budgeting becomes more than a tool. It becomes a foundation. And foundations, when built properly, support everything that comes next. Living on a low income does not mean you are bad with money. It does not mean you are irresponsible, lazy, or incapable of building stability. What it usually means is that every decision matters more. Every mistake costs more. And every delay compounds faster. Budgeting on a low income is not about restriction. It is about control, survival, and eventually freedom. The biggest mistake people make when they earn little is believing budgeting will not work for them. They assume budgeting is for people with extra money, not people barely getting by. But the truth is the opposite. The less you earn, the more important budgeting becomes. Without a plan, low income turns into permanent stress. With a plan, even limited income can begin to create breathing room. The first reality you must accept is that budgeting on a low income requires honesty. You cannot budget what you refuse to face. You must know exactly how much comes in and exactly how much goes out. Not estimates. Not guesses. Exact numbers. When income is tight, assumptions are dangerous. Write everything down. Every bill. Every subscription. Every small expense that quietly drains your cash. Awareness alone often reveals where control has been lost. Many people underestimate how much small spending affects them. A few dollars here, a convenience purchase there, a habit that feels harmless. On a high income, these things are absorbed. On a low income, they become leaks that keep you stuck. Budgeting forces you to see these leaks clearly, without judgment, without shame, but with responsibility. Once you see your numbers, the next step is prioritization. Not everything can be paid at once. Not everything deserves equal attention. On a low income, your budget must protect essentials first. Housing, utilities, transportation. These are non-negotiables. Everything else must be organized around them. A budget that does not protect essentials will collapse quickly. Food deserves special attention. Many people overspend on food without realizing it, not because they are careless, but because they are exhausted. When time and energy are limited, convenience becomes expensive. Planning simple meals, buying in bulk where possible, and cooking more at home can free up money faster than almost any other adjustment. Budgeting food is not about deprivation. It is about strategy. Another critical rule when budgeting on a low income is separating fixed expenses from flexible ones. Fixed expenses rarely change quickly. Rent, basic utilities, minimum debt payments. Flexible expenses are where control lives. Food, transportation choices, entertainment, personal spending. Your budget should focus on managing the flexible categories tightly while gradually improving the fixed ones over time. Debt requires careful handling. If you are on a low income, debt can feel overwhelming, but ignoring it makes it worse. Budgeting allows you to face debt without panic. Start by listing all debts clearly. Interest rates, minimum payments, balances. This removes uncertainty, which is often more stressful than the numbers themselves. When income is limited, consistency matters more than speed. Even small, regular payments reduce pressure over time. One of the most powerful tools in low-income budgeting is automation. When decisions are removed, discipline becomes easier. If possible, automate savings, even if it is a very small amount. 5 or 10 units of currency consistently saved is not meaningless. It builds habit, confidence, and protection. Emergency savings is not a luxury. It is a necessity, especially when income is fragile. Many people believe they cannot save until they earn more. This belief keeps them trapped. Saving on a low income is not about amount. It is about priority. Without savings, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. Budgeting must include protection against emergencies, even if progress feels slow. Another important shift is moving from monthly thinking to weekly thinking. Low-income budgets often fail because the timeline is too long. A month feels overwhelming. A week feels manageable. Breaking your budget into weekly limits gives you faster feedback and better control. You can adjust before damage is done. You can learn faster. You can recover quicker. Budgeting also requires boundaries. This includes boundaries with other people. On a low income, generosity without limits can be dangerous. Helping others while neglecting your own stability leads to resentment and burnout. A budget allows you to give intentionally, not emotionally. It protects relationships by protecting your financial health. Lifestyle comparison must be addressed honestly. Budgeting becomes impossible when you try to live someone else's income. Social pressure pushes people to spend money they do not have to maintain appearances that do not improve their lives. A low-income budget demands humility, not because you are less than anyone, but because you are building something quietly and strategically. Another key principle is designing your budget around reality, not optimism. Do not assume perfect behavior. Do not assume motivation will always be high. Build margin where possible. Allow small amounts for enjoyment. A budget that feels like punishment will be abandoned. A budget that feels supportive will be followed. Tracking is essential. Budgeting is not a one-time setup. It is a living system. Review it weekly. Adjust it honestly. If something is not working, change it. Failure to adjust is not discipline. It is denial. Budgeting on a low income requires flexibility anchored by discipline. Income growth should also be part of the plan, even if it is slow. Budgeting alone cannot solve everything, but it creates the stability needed to pursue better opportunities. Skills, side income, negotiation, education. Budgeting creates the foundation from which growth becomes possible. Another overlooked aspect is mental budgeting. Constant stress around money leads to poor decisions. Fatigue causes overspending. Shame causes avoidance. A clear budget reduces mental load. It turns chaos into structure. Structure reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety improves decision-making. This cycle matters more than people realize. You must also learn to measure progress differently. On a low income, success may not look dramatic. It may look like fewer emergencies, more control, less anxiety, bills paid on time, small savings growing slowly. These are victories. Ignoring them leads to discouragement. Recognizing them builds momentum. Budgeting also teaches patience. Progress may feel slow, but consistency compounds quietly. Months of discipline create options. Options create leverage. Leverage creates freedom. Most people quit budgeting right before it starts working. Not because it failed, but because results were not immediate. You will make mistakes. Overspending will happen. Unexpected expenses will appear. This does not mean the budget failed. It means life happened. The goal is not perfection. The goal is recovery. How quickly you return to your plan matters more than how perfectly you follow it. Another powerful habit is planning for irregular expenses. Many people budget only for monthly bills and are shocked by annual or occasional costs. School fees, repairs, holidays. These expenses are predictable even if they are not frequent. Budgeting small amounts for them prevents future crises. Over time, your budget should evolve. As income changes, as expenses shift, as goals become clearer, your budget should reflect your new reality. A stagnant budget becomes irrelevant. An adaptive budget remains powerful. Ultimately, budgeting on a low income is an act of self-respect. It says your future matters, even when resources are limited. It says you refuse to live reactively. It says you are building stability intentionally, not waiting for rescue. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are learning a skill many people never master. Money control is not reserved for the wealthy. It is earned through awareness, discipline, and patience. Low income does not define your future, but ignoring your finances might. Budgeting is not about what you lack. It is about what you manage. And when you manage what you have well, you create the conditions for more. This is how financial confidence is built. Quietly, slowly, intentionally, one decision at a time. And it always starts with a budget.